Hey friends, so we're going to learn a little bit about using image trace in Adobe Illustrator. Now, image trace is a great way to take raster graphics like a photograph or maybe an illustration that you drew on paper and you've scanned in to create that to that vector object where you can really modify it. Now, remember when you do raster graphics remember when you're creating Illustrator and you're doing these raster graphics and you're modifying them, that it's not going to have that beautiful gradient image clarity that you do in a JPEG or a PNG. So keep that in mind when you're doing this step. So I have some images already on my hard drive and I'm just going to do a file place. And this is going to open up sort of a Finder window where I can find graphics that I need to work with. And you kind of get a weird look within my hard drive with all the weird things that I do. So okay, I have this graphic and I want to make it into an illustration. So I'm going to click it and file place. Now my cursor's changed to where it is kind of a thumbnail. And it's just where I place. I'm going to do a file place and it's a big file. So I'm just going to zoom out a bit. And what I have is the name of the file here. If I hover over it, it tells us exactly where it's located, what color space, and what DPI it is. So what I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to actually resize this with my selection tool, holding down shift, just resizing my artwork. Cool. So I'm going to zoom back into my document. And what I'm going to do is just click the word image trace. Now this is a huge file, so it's going to take a minute. I'm just going to click OK. And what it does is reading all of those paths, all those variations, those tones, and reading them into paths and shapes and anchors. So I can view tracing result with outlines, see how many paths we created, just outlines, outlines with source image, just my source image. I like doing tracing result with outlines. I can do, there's different presets. I can do it in all shades of gray. Again, it's going to take forever because it is a big file. Now typically you would want to take this into Photoshop and maybe try to simplify it first before you bring it into the software. Take out things that you know you're going to just delete it out anyway, just to save yourself some time. If not, it's not a big deal. And you always want to understand copyright within the context of doing an image trace. Now you can't just take a picture of Britney Spears, do an image trace and say, look at this cool thing I made, because you didn't change the image enough from the original. There's a lot of great information and resources on what you can and can't do with copyrighted images. You can always, there's this great documentary called RIP, a Remix Manifesto. It is on Vimeo, which is great. CreativeCommons.org, which is awesome for dealing with copyright, what you can and can't do. If you use images you take yourself, it should be no problem. And if I just go to tracing result, and that looks really accurate to my original photo, which I can just go to source image. I'm actually going to pull up this right here, tracing image trace panel, or I can go to view, Windows the image trace. And this pulls up a panel, and I'm just going to toggle down advanced. Now there's some more information like low color, grayscale, black and white, outline, auto color. And with image trace, you just want to play around because there's so many different things. And I keep saying you got to play around in the software, get used to it, because that's how you learn. If you do this, this works. If you do that, that doesn't work. Takes a few moments. Again, because this is kind of a higher quality image. But when it's a higher quality image, I have more what you can and can't do in the software. And this is a new thing in Illustrator. It used to take forever to do this. So you could always say, I want low paths, I want high corners. And since I have preview on it, it's going to do this for every moment. Just do a stop. Uncheck preview, so I can just kind of play around with different things. You can do this, which creates cutout paths. So every time we move something, there isn't something behind it. And this where it's overlap, stacked paths. So I'm going to do that. Low paths, less corners, more noise, less colors. And we're just going to do a preview. It's going to take a few moments because we made so many different adjustments. You used to have to use the pen tool and shape tool to create a vector object out of a graphic and draw each and every single gradient on it, kind of paint over it. And some people still do that. Some people are really into it as a method, and they get really into it and get some really cool etches and paths with it. And if you look up vector art, a lot of that will come up. But this is a quick way to do it. Saves people a lot of time, and they just need to get something simple done. Instead of spending hours doing it, they just spend 15 minutes watching the progress bar adjust. And basically anytime you put a raster object within Illustrator, you should vectorize it because that's the point of the software. Now, if it's already within the right image size within it, it's helpful. You don't necessarily have to. Like, let's say you're printing off a document and it's already sized at 300 dpi and your image is 300 dpi, that's fine. So this has adjusted. We're just going to click expand, and that takes it from this sort of halfway point into an object. And click exit out image trace panel. As you can see, I have shapes, but they're all grouped together. And there's an object, ungroup. And what you can do is I can move things out, I can move paths, I can delete things, I can select a bunch of stuff like I did there, hold up, click on this color artwork function, which is this color wheel, and it's going to read all our colors and it's going to just adjust them so we can adjust them. There's a lot of colors for it to read, but this is kind of a quick, easy way to recolor all your artwork. So these are the current colors on the left, and then the new ones are on the right, and I can double click and say for every time that color appears, we want it to be pink. And click OK. I can click Sometimes it'll do it in different shades. If I click on color groups, it's going to really play around with it. And I can just click OK just to see what this looks like. And now our artwork is really changed out. And remember, these are all paths and shapes, so I can distort, anything I can do with a path or a shape, I can do with this because we've created paths and shapes. I can pull things out, I can delete things, I can recolor them, I can simplify. Really play around with image trace. There's so many cool things you can do with it. This kind of concludes this sort of introduction to image trace video. I hope you like it and play around.